Greetings, Shank.
Greetings.
How have you been? It's been almost a week. We spoke, I guess.
A lot has happened, and I'm feeling amazing. How about you?
Yes, sir. I'm good as well.
That's nice.
So, I think last 3 weeks, we covered Ramayana, and we covered Ramayana not a lot, but as much as we did, we covered the first part of the book, and so we thought we'll do a small change this week and just go to other topics, and even come back to Ramayana again. But before we get to Ramayana, we'll just cover the basic questions people might have in terms of the Hinduism or Sanatana Dharma, to be precise. So I thought, okay, let's just check those out first, and then we can move back. That was the idea.
I do feel comfortable with that. Yeah, I think the change is going to be good. A change of pace is always good.
Yes, sir. And yeah, so to start with, yeah, post Ramayana, so we had other plans as well. We wanted to bring in Mahabharata. We wanted to do the mantras and other things as well, right? We discussed some
Yeah.
of them last time, both
Hmm.
on cam as well as on the live stream as well, off the live stream. And
Hmm.
we also had more of these more data, but yeah, we don't have sufficient time to go through all of those data, sadly. But then there are so many books that we could refer to. So much information is out there, but yet we couldn't. We didn't have the time to get all of them. So that today
Yeah.
we'll just start with some of those, and we'll move forward, and we'll catch up eventually. Maybe we could have someone who's well versed in these Puranas or Vedas or Upanishads, or someday they could also probably help us out in a few things,
Yeah.
right?
So many
So
pins on the board.
yeah, so let me just quickly pull this off. So today's discussion, like what's going to be, is more of Hindu rites and rituals. So the idea
Hmm.
came from this book called Hindu Rites and Rituals by K.V. Singh. I was just going through that book, and
Hmm.
I noticed there were so many things which was mentioned in that book. Pretty basic,
Hmm.
whatever religious beliefs or practices we do, pretty basic, but we don't know the reason why we do it. For example, I've noticed that certain deities worshipped first, certain time is used to worship, and certain flowers are in place, certain certain sweets are provided to certain gods, but we still don't know what is the reason we do all of those things. So that's what I was thinking. Okay, maybe we could expand on these things and understand.
Yeah, sure. That seems like a good idea.
All right. So we have a lot of those things, but unfortunately we won't be able to cover all of them. But we'll cover some of them today, and I think it's only right to begin with the actual person who's involved in all the things which we do first, which happens to be Lord Ganesha. So let's
Hmm.
talk about him to begin with. Lord Ganesha, son of Shiva and Parvati, brother
Hmm.
of Kartikeya, Murga, whatever terms you want to use.
Hmm.
So Lord Ganesha is the deity who is worshipped first. Before any activity takes place, Ganesha puja is done, and then only then, uh, you take over the activity or anything you do.
Yeah.
So, care to share some insights why we do that?
Yeah, so Ganesha is also known as Vignaharta, as in the person who removes obstacles. So the idea being that a specific god, Ganesha in this instance, he is the one who is regarded with having the ability to remove any obstacles in our path before we are supposed to start any activities. So this is usually done before doing any sort of pujas or any auspicious rituals. It's just some of the boons that Ganesha obtained throughout his period of being amongst the gods, and he obtained a lot of boons from a lot of demigods. But one of the boons is that he is the one who is supposed to be worshipped first because he has the ability to remove obstacles. So any activity that we're doing, we just pray to him that we don't get any obstacles in our way, and all of our activities are completed in a successful manner. So that's the basic idea behind why we worship him first.
So this boon that you mentioned, right? If I'm not mistaken, this was given when the origin story where Ganesha's head was chopped off, and then when it was replaced with the elephant's head, and the gods came in
Yeah,
and offered the boons. This is when it happened, correct?
Yeah, this is the idea where it happened, as in many people believe that this is when most of his boons. It is also believed that he also has the Ashta Siddhi, but there can be, arguments on both sides towards this as well. So yeah, Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, and all of the other demigods, Surya Dev, Vayu Dev, all of the demigods just came together when this happened, and they just gave him a lot of boons. One of the boons made him the Vignaharta, the remover of obstacles, because the idea was that they were so impressed with his pure emotions towards his mother that he did not even care about going against great God, the destroyer. He did not even care about going against him, that he wanted to protect his mother. So that was the primary objective.
Got it. So, quick question. So, there is this idea in the south, Ganesha is the elder brother, and
Mhm.
Murugan or Kartikeya is the younger brother. Whereas in the
Mhm.
north, it's the other way around, correct? In the south,
Yeah.
Ganesha is the bachelor, and Murugan is married to two wives. Whereas in the north, Ganesha is married and has two wives.
Yeah, exactly. That's just a basic thing wherein people are not able to agree upon one thing, upon one scripture, and there are many variations. As in, if you ask a person if he believes in Valmiki Ramayana or if he believes in Ramcharitmanas, one might have different preferences, right? It's just
Mhm.
going to say that different tribes, we can just classify as different tribes fighting for different things wherein they could not agree upon one thing, and that has just become a folklore and people started believing that thing, and instead of going for facts and finding out the truth, they just thought of sticking to what their ancestors thought of, and unfortunately there's a lack of synchrony in these ideas, wherein Ganesha is believed to be the elder brother, and in another place Ganesha is believed to be the younger brother, and that's the basic misconception that we have. But yeah, it can go either way. If you ask me for my opinion, we don't have a way of knowing for sure, but yeah, let's just look at them as what we're worshiping them towards, as in their ideologies and their what they're offering from their side. So yeah, if you ask me, that's what I think about.
Okay. So I know we were just supposed to go through this particular discussion, but it kind of is curious at some point when people assume why did Ganesha have a elephant head and not a human head, right? Even though when the head was chopped off, why couldn't the gods have his human head attached?
Mhm.
I think we did discuss this one somewhere in one of the streams we discussed, where how each actions of gods were tied to another a previous
Mhm.
actions or consequence of some sort, right? It was not
Yeah,
something which happened out of nowhere. These are all planned or designed in such a way that is supposed to happen, right? And that's when I realized, and I was reading this book, and when Markandeya was immortal, he was given the Mrityu Sanjeevani mantra, right? And why couldn't they bring back Ganesha the same way? But then it takes a small turn where they also mention that no, Shiva says, go towards the direction of wisdom, and from there you get me a head, right? So
yeah,
Ganesha is also someone who's worshipped for knowledge as well, right?
yeah.
Is this a symbol of knowledge? So the head which came from actually comes from the direction of wisdom, and also Vishnu and Shiva also kind of nod and agree on this person called Gajasura. There was
Yeah.
a time when Gajasura was resided in the stomach of Shiva, and Shiva granted him a wish that his head will be worshipped forever, and that head is what happens to be Ganesha's head. So whatever promise was made, or boon was given to Gajasura, that head will be worshipped. That head
Hmm.
was replaced with Ganesha's body, and
Hmm.
so that again ties to that story where whatever promise was made or whatever leelas were there involved before, they all come together. It's not an accident or something of that sort. These are all designed in such a way.
Yeah. So everything just ties together in a way wherein each promise is met, as well as each objective is fulfilled at the same time. So all of this, as you said, was designed to happen, and it's not as simple as reviving someone from the dead with the same head, with the same body, because as you might know, Parvati created. Ganesh not by the usual methods of birth. It was an animated being that was created from dust and dirt, and some people do believe that it was created from the chandan that was applied onto Parvati's skin at that time, and then she just scraped it off, and then she made an idol out of it, and then that boy was animated into being. Some people do believe that as well. So it's not as simple as reviving someone from the dead, because if you have to die and if you have to be revived from a mantra, you will have to be born in the first place. And Ganesha was not born as an infant, as a baby. He was made and given animation as an idol, and then he was brought into life, right? So it's not as simple as just reviving someone, and the usual means cannot be used. So yeah, you're right, the Gajasura story upholds here as well. And yeah, the main thing to remember here is that um the instructions, the common folklore goes that the instructions uh, were given such that the head of whatever first being that you see in the knowledge, in the path of wisdom, is the head that you'll be bringing back, and that's the head that will be attaching onto Ganesha's body. So that was the instruction that all the folklores say, and that was what was done. And that's why Ganesha is said to have such immense knowledge, such immense memory. And if you see elephants as well, they have immense memory as well. They can remember events throughout their entire lifetime, and you see connotations here and there as well. So yeah, that's how the common folklore goes.
Got it. So remember you mentioned earlier, I think a couple of minutes back, you mentioned about him getting all the boons. There's another thing which I wanted to discuss is the names he received as well. I think the names were given to him by Shiva himself. So Lord
Yeah,
Shiva says Ganesha shall be the cardinal deity going forward, and he'll be the god of all beginnings, right? So
yeah.
him being the cardinal deity, he's blessed to be the god of all beginnings, the first
Hmm.
to be invoked, because the reason why he's first to be invoked, because he was obstructing Shiva's path, and
Hmm.
for that he will be called as Vignesha. The term Vignesha because he was obstructing Shiva's path, and he
Yeah.
was blessed with this particular cardinal deity position. It was called Vignesha, and one who
Hmm.
removes all the hurdles from the paths as well. And he is also called Gajananam, the elephant faced, and he'll also be called as Vinayaka, who's known as the supreme leader.
Yeah.
So essentially, even though this is just an origin story, this is not just any regular story. This is somewhere where they're putting someone in a position in a way that they're
Mhm.
establishing this person's credentials, like here is what this person is, and all of this titles we're giving him means all of these tasks that he'll be handling. So going forward, whatever you need to talk to him first before you get to me, kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And you see, there are other names as well. There is Buddhinatha, there is Deva Deva, and there is Chaturbhuja, and there is also you mentioned Gajanana, and you can also mention, like I said, Vignesha and Vignaharta. Vignakarta becomes the Vignaharta, the person who made the obstacle in Shiva's path in the first place, also becomes the person, the deity who removes all the obstacles in every person's life. So you can see the irony here. You can see how things were turned out.
Mhm.
And also there is Gadadhara, and off the top of my head, there is Gajavakra, and many other names. I think there are more than 108 names. Each deity has 108 names. So yeah, these are just a few of them.
Wait, well, let's put a pin on the 108. I think I wanted to circle back to the 108. I
Yeah,
think this is something that we will hear a lot in this discussion as well, if I'm not mistaken, right? We
yeah,
also had, I was talking about the Rudrakshas, but yeah, we'll get to the 108 in some time.
yeah.
I just have one more thing which I want to add as well. The book which I was referring to, which is from KV Singh, he also mentions
Mhm.
another thing, which is this is the first time I'm hearing this one, by the way. I've never heard of this particular phrase before. So it says that the language that we speak is called Nad Pasha, which is the
Mhm.
language of humans, and the
Mhm.
language that is spoken by the gods and deities are called
Mhm.
Prakash Basha, and Hanuman, which is the language of light, and it's not Hanuman, sorry, my bad. Ganesha is the person who is said to convert the Nad Basha into Prakash Basha, so that the gods are it reaches the gods quickly.
Yeah.
which is why he is. I've never heard of this terms, these terms like Nath Bhasha or Prakash Bhasha before. So I thought maybe just bring it out and see if you have any suggestions, if you have any ideas on those things.
Yeah, so there are different languages as to what we speak and what the gods speak. One of the things that is said to be believed is that even the gods speak Sanskrit, but that might not be entirely true, right? We don't know for sure if they do speak Sanskrit itself. And Ganesha is said to be having the immense knowledge that he has and the immense IQ that he's known for. He was sort of brought in as a medium, as just to be a means of communication between the humans and gods, because at that time it is believed to be known that there is it is common knowledge that every demigod, every great sage knew that there will be a dark time ahead wherein the Kali Yuga is going to approach and everything is going to be destroyed, and the whole package that comes with it. The names of gods will not be recited as fast and also so many other things that comes with the whole Kaliyuk package. So Ganesha was just used as a medium of communication wherein the humans can use this language instead of the other language that the gods speak, which we don't know of, and we can communicate with them easily. So that's the entire idea.
In a way, it also says that there are, because last time we had a discussion, which is the oldest language, we couldn't even finalize the languages we speak or we spoke at some point to be the oldest. And now that we are already, and yeah, if we can't come to an agreement on the languages humans spoke, imagine what is going to happen with the language of gods. But yeah, like I
Exactly.
said, we can't expect gods to speak our languages, right? In a way, like
Yeah.
we can't say, you know what, because I'm from this particular language, I'm assuming this is the language God spoke to. There could be a different language altogether. That's a nice intro, though. Maybe somewhere we can come across something more about these Prakash Bhasha and
Yeah.
what it is all about. This is my first time, so I'll probably look into it. Maybe yeah, we'll see if we have any info on that.
Yeah, definitely. It also poses one more question. I wanted to bring this up. We have different languages across different landscapes, as in so many languages, more than 5,000 languages exist right now, and there are so many contradictions as to what the gods speak and what we speak, and so really makes you wonder, do gods really understand what we tell them and what we communicate to them on a daily basis, or is it just that our emotions are being understood through them and they can't really decode what we're saying? It might also pose that question. But also, there are so many methods of worshiping gods that it doesn't really matter what you worship for or what you ask specifically through your words. It's just your emotions that are being valued at the end of the day, right? If you agree with me.
Hmm. Yeah,
So, yeah.
end of the day, see, all languages were created by men, as in humans, and humans were created by gods, and humans cannot create anything. I'm using the term men over here to define humans, not to differentiate between men and women. Like I
Yeah.
think we are in this current generation where you have to be very specific. So I'm a little worried about if someone's going to get offended or not. But yeah, generally the term men which we use is just for mankind. So
Yeah.
yeah, uh, my understanding is that humans cannot create something which is not within the existence itself, though everything which we have, which we worked on, did exist in one form or another form, which is meant to be part of human understanding, something that we can comprehend. So the languages we have, it's not that it came from us, it still came from
Yeah.
God, because their entire rules were defined, and whatever we created within those rules were part of that game to begin with, right?
Yeah.
Meaning that there is no such thing as what we created God cannot understand. It's more like there are so many things that we cannot understand, and we are limited by our intellectual or our ability to understand or perceive certain things. Now,
Yeah.
gods could be in a completely different different plane altogether. They have a different way of communication, but that doesn't
Hmm.
mean that they don't understand our languages. uh, by definition, god or the god or the gods or demigods, however you want to name it, they would all
Yeah.
understand you, because essentially that is what it is, what being a god is, right? uh,
Yeah.
So that there is no argument. I think no matter what language you worship or what thoughts you have, the gods can understand those. So there is no doubt there.
Yeah, exactly. And each geographical region has, we as humans have made such a boundary wherein each geographical region has a specific set of gods, and we're supposed to worship them. It really begs the question: only if I worship my Hindu gods within India, will they be able to hear me? Or if I go to Greece and worship Greek mythological gods, will they be able to hear me as well? So, my idea of this is that the methods of worship that you use for each god, it really matters, as in each god has a specific way of calling them. So for example, we call the Vedic gods that we have, the demigods, and the great gods like Krishna, Vishnu, Mahesh,
Mm-hmm.
whereas the Greek mythological gods, they have a different set of hymns that are being used. Hymns, I think that's a fair term to use. These hymns are being used in order to call upon them. So that's my basic idea on how different gods are being worshipped, and they don't respond to certain things, right?
So maybe from my understanding, I would say, if I have to take from one verse from Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna
Hmm.
says, even those who worship other gods worship me, but do it incorrectly, right? And he
Yeah,
also goes on saying that there are certain ways to worship, and if you worship that way, you come to. For example, if you worship the devas, you go to the devas, and if you worship the other demigods, you go to them, and if you worship me, you come to me. So what essentially saying, there is an easier way, there's a longer way, kind of, sense. So let's just, I'm assuming, let's say I'm praying to you know Athena, right? And
yeah,
I'm devoted to her, and I worship her, and I pray for her, pray to her, and in terms of what I require. Now, can Athena understand me or not? That's a different. Maybe she would understand me better with, as you
mhm,
mentioned, those hymns, because that is a direct connection that the gods reveal themselves in that particular region to have a communication with them, which means
yeah,
they reached out directly to build a bond right there. So, and we may have, essentially, let's just say you are in different areas and at different police stations, right? All
yeah,
police do the same thing. They do enforce law, but sometimes you're out of the jurisdiction in a way, kind of thing, right? So, which means
yeah,
some police officers would be quickly to assist because you fall within that locality, which means that's their
hmm,
area and they would be able to assist you. Whereas if you go to a different area and the incident happened in this area, they might not take it into consideration. They will push you back to that police station. The same way, we have gods revealed themselves in different regions, in different forms, different manifestations, to
hmm,
be more understanding and to be more one with that region or that set of people.
hmm.
And the best way that you can worship that particular god is through those ways, because that's the way they prescribed.
Yeah, exactly. I was, like you mentioned, I was just kind of linked to the Bhagavad Gita phrase wherein Krishna says that whatever God you worship to, ultimately all of the rituals are going to point out towards me itself, and the prayers are going to reach Krishna himself, right? But
Mhm.
the demigods that we worship, you can see the similarities. For example, Greek mythology has Zeus, Hindu religion has Indra, and even Norse mythology has Thor, the famous Marvel hero. He actually exists in the Norse mythology. So, just one example: Thor, Zeus, and Indra. All of these are reign of gods, reign of thunder. I'm sorry, a god of thunder and god of rain. All of these have the same power basically. It just might signify that other tribes were able to get in contact with these demigods, and they were able to build a connection with them, and they have their own method of worship with them. So that's one way of looking at it.
Agree. So yeah, that makes sense though. There is a right way, there is maybe a long way, but either which
Yeah,
way is working. There is no wrong way, is what I would say. Maybe there's a right way, there's a long way, but I wouldn't say
yeah,
there's a wrong way. Even if I could say there's a wrong way, it's more like not apt for that particular region or location, but essentially it will still go to the gods one way or
Yeah.
another. So I think I can't say with conviction this is the perfect answer, because I myself am slightly on the edge over here. Like, what if my statement right now is inaccurate as well, right? So I can't say with conviction, but
Yeah.
I agree there is all prayers can go to God one way or another, is my understanding for now at least.
Let's look at it in a way of the supreme soul. Every prayer that we pray just reaches to the supreme soul. Just we as a tribe, we name the supreme soul as Krishna, and other tribes might have other names as well. So it's essentially the
Correct.
same ideology, just different
It's the
names.
same. Yeah. So with that basic understanding of the fundamentals that we have, yeah, all gods. I mean, whatever language you pray or worship, it should go to the god. But what way, what form of worship or how you worship, that is prescribed by the gods, which means that might have more effectiveness in worships than pure own way of worship.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So Ganesha, again, the remote obstacle put so many questions in our head today, apparently, and he made us go through theology of what's the right way to worship. Right. So let's go to, now that we mentioned about the way of worship, maybe we can discuss about these things. So that I came across this. I'm a Hanuman
Yeah,
devotee, right? And
sure.
I tell
So
people,
there's,
yeah, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, no, no, I just had a brief connection issue there. Are you able to hear me now?
Yeah, yeah, you're clear.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, like you were mentioning, there are many ways of worshiping gods, and the most common way is that we offer them food and we offer them flowers. Flowers being the main mode of worship towards many gods. See, the flowers that we offer to so many gods can vary. Each god has a preference towards each flower. It does not mean that that god has a specific preference, as in they like this kind of flower, or um, they are just sort of attracted towards this kind of flower. No, it's not as simple as that. It's basically originated from the idea that each god has a tendency of their own, and each tendency is contradicted by a flower. And you can just see the contrast, as in each, if a god has a tendency of heat, they are offered a flower which offers cool and sort of cools the heat down. For example, the nature of many gods may vary from Rajasic, Tamasic, and Sattvic. And Krishna, being the Sattvic god that he is, we offer him yellow marigold flowers, because yellow marigold flowers are Sattvic in nature, and they just resonate with his nature, wherein it's not a complete contrast, it's not a complete opposite to what he is. So that's the basic ideology between offering flowers and offering certain types of foods and certain types of offerings to certain types of gods. So it all depends upon the nature of the god that you're worshipping.
Okay, so now that you mentioned the Sattvic and Rajas, and I just want to highlight people who might not know. So these are gunas, which like Sattvic guna, Rajas guna, and Tamas guna, denoting their own attributes as well.
Yeah.
Sattvic is like divine, if I'm not wrong, and
Mhm.
Rajas, I think Rajas is on a harsher side.
Yeah, so let me just put it in simpler terms. um, Rajas is wherein a being just lives their life in complete ignorance, as in they're not aware of God, they don't believe in God, and they just live in complete ignorance throughout their entire lives. One such example, just let's take birds for example. They don't know that there's a greater being above all of us, and there's a being that you know presides over every living thing. So birds are of a Rajasic nature, right? So that's the basic ideology. And Tamasic nature just means that you are aware that there is a god, and you still choose to not completely obey them and not completely surrender to them. Surrender being the key word here. tamasic nature just means that. And you can just look at it in a way that we normal human beings, we are aware that there is such a thing as a supreme soul, but we're not completely willing to surrender to that supreme soul. We care about material things. We care about things that do not matter in the grand scale of the universe. We are sort of tamasic beings where uh, we know that there is a supreme being in existence, but we still choose not to surrender to him. And then comes the last nature, which is the sattvic nature, wherein a being knows and acknowledges the supreme soul, and they are also surrendered towards that supreme soul. Um, so, in order to do that, you're supposed to consume sattvic food, conduct yourself in a sattvic manner, and then you're supposed to worship the god in such a way that you are surrendering completely to him. So for example, Krishna consciousness is a great example of this. They subscribe to the idea of surrendering completely towards Krishna, and that's what the Bhagavad Gita says as well. So yeah, this is the entire brief description of those three natures. This is one way of looking at it. Again, there might be difference of ideas. I'm just projecting my opinion on this.
Cool, got it. So I came across this nature again. It describes people as well, right? So in a way, people say Sattvic are the one with divine nature, like nice people. Like they are the ones who are devoted to God, the ones who do good things. Their nature would also be like they consider Sattvic, and evil
Mhm.
people would be Tamasic because of their natural tendency to do evil things. Like for example, I was told that the Rakshasas, Asuras, they have the tendency of tamasic nature,
Yeah,
whereas Lord Rama, Krishna, they were all sattvic in nature because they were divine, right?
yeah,
So that was my understanding as well. But yeah, I think initially the gunas were created, and then came the human creation, if I'm not mistaken. Though, first the gunas, the attributes were created, the world was created, then the humans were created. So
yeah.
it's an interesting discussion to have at some point, I guess. Though.
Yeah, exactly. You mentioned that asuras and rakshasas are tamasic of nature. Now, you might beg the question. We have the classic idea where asuras are the complete opposite of everything that's good in this entire universe, but that's not exactly true. Rakshasas and asuras, they're fantastic practitioners of the gods that they worship, and they have certain methods of worshipping those gods. So it's not like they are completely against gods. They do worship gods, and that really signifies that they are tamasic in nature. Like I mentioned earlier, the description that I gave about all of these three natures, they could be Ratsik if we go with the classic ideology wherein they're opposite to everything that's good in this universe, which is what most people think of as in they think of the asuras and the rakshasas as evil forces of nature. Uh, you might think that they're Rajasic in nature, wherein they completely go against God and they ignore God and they don't acknowledge God. But no, that's not true. They're Tamasic in nature, wherein they acknowledge God, they know that God exists, but still they choose to act upon their own will, they choose to act upon their own senses, and they end up doing things for their greed and for their own benefits. So that's where the difference comes in.
Yeah, that's pretty much the story of every Asura Rakshasa, for example. Right? Take even Ravana or in any Rakshasa, for example, they are all devoted to one god, and yet
Yeah,
they do wrong things. Like you mentioned, they do understand what's right and wrong, yet they do what it is. And if I'm not
yeah,
mistaken, there's a famous phrase as well that Duryodhana mentioned to someone, though. I think this is, again, I'm not sure how much of it is true. Duryodhana was saying it to Krishna when they had this discussion. So Duryodhana said that I know what is right and wrong, but I'm not
hmm,
able to follow that. There's another person called Arjuna. He doesn't know what's right and wrong. Maybe you need to go help him out because he will listen to you. He has ability to, change. But I know what is right and wrong, but I cannot change. That's my problem. I don't know how much of
yeah,
this phrase is true, but I've heard of it, and it was kind of a cool statement though, because Duryodhana being the evil person that he is, but he
hmm,
was well versed in every single thing what the good guys were as well, but yet he
yeah,
couldn't change his behavior because he wasn't willing to at some point. So over here, him stating that I'm fully aware what is right and wrong. I'm not a person who does not know the difference, but
hmm,
my nature won't allow me to change it. Whereas Arjun, on the other hand, who does not know what's right from wrong, he's like more like a baby. If you go tell
Mhm.
him what's right and wrong, he might, get his life around. And that's the reason. That's one of the reasons that Krishna, reached out to Arjuna, and Arjuna was that devoted student who took his words seriously.
Yeah, exactly. I do completely agree with that.
All right. So yeah, we had this flowers, and you mentioned about each flowers, the nature and other things. Yeah, that we. I think there are so many of these things, right? Uh,
Yeah.
for example, Ganesha, red flowers or red hibiscus is good. For Lakshmi,
Hmm.
white lotus is given. For Shiva,
Hmm.
blue water lily. For Krishna, yellow marigold flower.
Hmm.
And we also have for Hanuman. The reason I'm just highlighting Hanuman because I'm a Hanuman devotee, so I keep bringing him out every chance I get. I'm just gonna have to bring Hanuman. So I think that Tulasi betel leaves is something which is given to Hanuman, and as a flower, chameli is the flower that is given to him, and
Yeah.
ironically, it's the same flower which is given to Lord Rama as well, right? And
Yeah.
yeah, they both share similar interests. Vishnu would be again the pink lotus or tulasi leaves is given to Vishnu.
Hmm.
There is a story why tulasi leaf is given because tulasi there's a complete story on the tulasi and her uh, how she became divine. There's one thing which is that, but yeah, pink lotus again. Another thing is he is called the lotus-eyed god, right? Uh, both all avatars of
Yeah.
Vishnu are lotus side. Even in Mahabharata and Ramayana, they keep addressing Lord Rama as lotus-eyed Rama, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, pink lotus goes to Vishnu, and Mahakali yellow flowers, and yeah, Krishna. Apart from yellow marigold, he also takes blue lotuses, and Brahmas is the question. We don't worship Brahma, right? There are no
Yeah.
temples dedicated to Brahma, but
Hmm.
I think this is something which we have to do separately at some point, I guess. I came across
Hmm.
this discussion where someone mentioned Brahma also had avatars, and he also took avatars. I'm not familiar of which avatar or what that is, but he prefers white lotus, just like his
Hmm.
wife Saraswati, who also prefer white lotuses.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there are less popular versions of where Brahma has taken avatars. I think, if I'm not wrong, 11 avatars, but yeah, I'm not really sure of that. I think Patanjali is one avatar of Brahma, but they also say that Patanjali is an avatar of, the Naga, uh, Vasuki, if I'm not wrong. But
Hmm.
yeah, that's up for controversy. And it's also said that Brahma might be, uh, I mean, Brahaspati might be an avatar of Brahma, and also the planet Shukra,
Hmm.
not the planet Shukra. I mean, I'm sorry, the sage Shukra, I think. And
Shukracharya.
also, yeah, I think Shukracharya, but yeah, don't quote me on that. I'm not sure of that. And Vyasa Rishi as well. I think I read Vyasa Rishi and Kalidasa being avatars of Brahma.
So Brahma's avatars are all like saints and knowledge because he's the person who got the
Yeah,
Vedas, by the way, and he's the known as the
yeah,
Prajapati, the father, grandfather of
yeah,
progenitor of all mankind. So he is given the grandfather role, the father role, type of thing. So his primary role is education in a
yeah,
way. Whatever avatars he became in was more like education.
exactly.
Got
Yeah,
it.
just to
And the
show the right
two
path to the end human.
Yeah, so essentially, what
Yeah.
Brahma is more like, he has the two brothers who take all the glory. Like Shiva and Vishnu and their avatars are like prominent. Brahma is the person who takes avatar just
Hmm.
to highlight the brothers. Like what, check out my brothers; they are really good, kind of thing. In a way, he's just
The
making his brothers
ultimate
look
wingman.
cool.
The ultimate wingman.
That's funny though. Yeah. We covered Ganesha initially, but then Ganesha is like there's so many things to talk about Ganesha because there was this discussion where what kind of idol to use at home and what kind of idol to use temples and what is the purpose. That was the question which people, I think most people would have. So my understanding is Vamamukhi
Yeah.
Murti Ganesha, which is the idol trunk, which is trunk is facing towards the left, is the one which you keep at home, and
Mm-hmm.
this is again, this symbolizes, in
Mm-hmm.
blessings and prosperity and positive energy and all those things. Whereas the one which is when the trunk faces the right hand side, that is something which is kept in the temples. And my understanding is that the Vamamukhi murtis, which peace and prosperity is the primary reason, produces Chandra Shakti, which is lunar energy, and that is good
Mm-hmm.
for material and spiritual growth for humans. And the
Mm-hmm.
energy level is not intense, whereas uh, the other one, which is the Dakshina Mukhi Murti, which is which is placed mostly in the temples, produces lunar energy, which is the solar energy. Sorry, not lunar, solar energy. Sorry, and the intensity is quite high, which is not good at
Mm-hmm.
to be placed at home because the energy level is quite high. It requires constant cooling. Like, you had a discussion, you mentioned about how Shivalingas requires cooling, and the same way when the Dakshinamukhi Murti also requires cooling, which is why it's kept in temples where regular rituals take place and not something which is kept at home.
Yeah, yeah, that's the basic ideology for keeping certain types of murtis in certain places, wherein they don't end up projecting the wrong type of
I think
energy
you're
towards
breaking
each
up, I guess. Network issue.
variation.
I think there's a small disconnect. There's some kind of network issue, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, are you able to get me now?
Yeah, yes, sir. I can hear you now.
Yeah, yeah. So I was just saying, like you mentioned, there are different types of murtis that are supposed to be kept in different environments, that so that they don't end up projecting the wrong type of energy in the wrong type of in the wrong place. So there are many versions of other gods as well, wherein they're not supposed to be worshipped in the house or in the temple, or they're supposed to be worshipped in a graveyard as well. So yeah, it all varies upon the energy that the idol resonates with and what the idol projects out.
Got it. So I think we covered Ganesha. We can give him some rest. I guess we keep bringing him up constantly. Now let's bring the chief guest of today's conversation, my favorite,
Yes.
Lord Hanuman. So yes, please. Panchamukhi Hanuman, quite famous though. There's
Yeah.
Veeranjaneya Hanuman, there's Panchamukhi Hanuman, and there are the other Hanuman. But Panchamukhi Hanuman is different from what we've normally seen, right? So,
Hmm.
care to give a backstory on Panchamukhi Hanuman?
Yeah, I think the first time that we see Panchamukhi Hanuman being mentioned, I think it's in Ramayana, and it's where Hanuman goes towards Patal Loka, and then he visits the Nagaloka to fetch the ring from the Nagaloka, and that's where I think he's first mentioned, and he's like so many different faces. I think each face different projects a different type of energy towards each direction, and mostly all of these idols that you see, if you notice it, all of these idols are facing east. So that's sort of resonating with the direction of the sun, wherein the sun rises in the east. So that's how it is being placed, and that's sort of like signifying how he gives strength and projects strength and protection. And Hanuman being the protector who stays within the bhuloka itself. The moment you call upon Hanuman, he's the person who is the most quick responder, as in he's the deity who responds the most quickly out of all the other deities.
Correct. If I'm not mistaken, there are two avatars of God which are on planet Earth. One is Parashurama and one is Lord Hanuman, who are still
Yeah.
present on the planet, or this Bhuloka to be precise. But
Hmm.
Parashurama's intent is not, he has a different agenda, so he's not going to be participating in any of it. It means the only God
Hmm.
who's the fully God who's still part of the Bhuloka is Lord Hanuman.
Hmm.
The
Yeah.
others are not in this realm anymore, this not dimension anymore, right?
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
someone also once told me that the reason that he is still in Bhuloka is the reason why he responds quickly than any other gods, and
Hmm.
also he's quickly there to really help you, which is the reason he's a person who's worshipped in case of any evil entities or anything of such, right? Hanuman.
Yeah.
There's this funny video which I watched. Uh,
Hmm.
there's a like Instagram video, right? A couple of guys
Hmm.
and girls were just playing some songs and just having fun in the middle of the night, and
Hmm.
they're playing this song, a
Hmm.
pop song, and
Hmm.
suddenly they hear some noise outside, the door open or something. From that,
Hmm.
immediately they all went to sleep. With the song, next song is playing is Jai Hanuman and Yana Gunasagar, which is the Hanuman Chalisa, right? So it is embedded in every individual, especially ones from the Hindu family, that if at all there is any kind of demon activity, any kind of evil spirit or something, you need to recite Hanuman Chalisa. And Hanuman Chalisa itself says, there's a phrase which says, Bhuta Pisacha Nikata Nahi Avai Mahabhira Jabanama Sunave. So if you say the name Mahabir or Mahavir, no evil spirit will come close to you, right? And there's, I think, one more phrase also goes, Sab sukh hai tumhari sarana, tum rakshak kahu ka darana, which is like, while
Yeah.
you're there to protect, why should you even worry about it, right? And it's pretty much embedded in everyone's mind. And the idea is
Hmm.
that, okay, if there is any evil spirit, all you have to do is just say Hanuman's name and read Hanuman Chalisa. Like, tell me about. I hope that we do Hanuman Chalisa in detail someday. But yeah, tell me, what is your view on Hanuman Chalisa?
Yeah, I think it's the greatest weapon that was given to man in order to protect themselves. It's more of the concept wherein we feel protected rather than being protected in real time. So most of the times when you see that you feel any negative influence or you think that something negative is going to happen, you often see a person resonating with Hanuman Chalisa and they immediately go towards that direction without any second thought. So it gives you the confidence that a person has within Hanuman that really pushes them in that direction. It's not like we have a guarantee that Hanuman physically is going to come towards us and he's going to protect us by standing in front of, you know just like how Hanuman protected Arjuna and his chariot. It's not that we think of him in that way. It's just that the idea that Hanuman is there to protect us at any time that we need, and we have the Hanuman Chalisa to make use of in order to call upon Hanuman. That's the thing that you need to think of, wherein the amount of confidence that a normal person has within this deity really tells you a lot about what he's capable of, and the fact that there are more worshippers of Hanuman than Lord Ram just tells you how popular he is amongst uh, the the common person. So yeah, that's the entire narrative to this. And also one more thing that I wanted to sort of project with this, the image that we have on screen of the Panchamukhi Hanuman, right? You can
Mm-hmm.
see that Hanuman being the middle face, as in the face in the middle, that's Hanuman, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or the other four faces, they are just avatars of Vishnu. So
Correct.
you can, yeah, I think one is Varaha, and then the extreme
Hayagriva
right
and
would be Haigriva, if I'm not wrong. Yeah,
yeah, there's
Narasimha,
Hayagriva. There is
and I think the other one is
Narasimha as well.
Garuda. Yeah, Garuda,
Garuda.
Narasimha. Yeah, there is.
I think there's a
Yeah,
small disconnect network. It's again breaking up, I guess.
yeah, the great gods.
Can you hear me now? Am I audible? Hello. Okay, if you can hear me, try Checking the network, maybe exit and join, see if that helps. I'm not sure, I'm not able to hear you if you are still here. Right. But yeah, as you mentioned, yeah. So as you mentioned, there's Hayagriva, there's Narasimha Avatar, and then there is Garuda, and also not Vamana Avatar. Yeah, the Varaha Avatar, correct. So all of these avatars are present. Let's move on to the next topic. I hope once you have a network, you can join back. So yeah, the discussion was regarding Panchama Hanuman, which is completed. Now let's talk about sanctity of river Ganga in itself. So Ganga is the river which is pretty much worshipped in Hindu mythology or Hindu religion, and it's worshipped as one of the rivers which is predominantly divine because it comes from gods directly. Ganga herself taken form, and that is the reason why. Are you back?
Yep. I just had a connection issue. Really.
So no problem.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I was just talking about Ganga. Just giving a quick review of what, it's a quick idea about River Ganga. So Ganga, even though it's not the purest river at this point, it was known for purification. Hence, the fact that it was supposed to purify everything kind of made it corrupted at this point. But yeah, Ganga is the river which purifies, and a very holy river, which now needs attention. All right. So let's go to the next one. So, what about the timings of the rituals as well as the timings of when to worship what god or what time to start your worships? Anything of that you want to clarify? Whether you're on mute if you're speaking.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So sorry about that. Yeah.
No
So
problem.
certain rituals are supposed to be held upon certain times because of the nature. Are you able to hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. 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 So I was just saying certain rituals are supposed to be held at certain times because of the effect that those rituals have. As in, the entire reason for why muhurats are a thing is because certain rituals have certain effects on the planetary systems of the person who's conducting those rituals, and that's the entire reason why we are supposed to do that at a certain time so that we don't have any adverse effects on the entire nine planetary system that we have in our kundalini. So you know how festivals are supposed to be held at a certain time at a certain place throughout the entire year. That's how it works, and that's only because these rituals have effects on our planetary systems. Speaking in terms of astrology, that I'm speaking of, these are supposed to be having adverse effects if we end up conducting them at the wrong time. So that's the entire concept of why we have muhurats.
So yeah, I remember weddings or any rituals, any events at home that are done at a certain time.
Hmm.
Brahma Muhurta is one of those things which are quite famous though. All good
Yeah.
things happen during that time, which falls somewhere 4:30 in the morning, 4:30 a.m. to around 6:30 a.m. somewhere between that duration. Brahma
Hmm.
Muhurtam happen. But I'm also
Yeah.
under the impression Muhurtam is technically 40 minutes time frame.
Yeah, exactly. 40 to 45 minutes.
Yeah. So this is the idea where most rituals take place. I got married during one of the Brahma Muhurtam as well, right? So
Hmm.
it has a very significant role in all good deeds, whether it's a grah pravesham, a wedding, a reception, so not reception, what do you call that, engagement, whatnot. They look
Yeah.
for the right time and
Mhm.
when to start these actions. So
Mhm.
there is a calculation based approach, but I don't have the knowledge on how it's calculated, but there is a calculation based approach.
Yeah.
And yeah, maybe we could at some point do a more in-depth analysis of these things and see how accurate they are and what is the reasoning behind taking this approach. Have they been proven to be correct, or have they been proven to be somewhat wrong or misleading? We can look into those things at some point.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we can do a separate podcast on that. It's just it requires more than I think 2 hours to cover that whole concept. So yeah.
Yes. So mantras, we discussed about Hanuman Chalisa. I know there are several mantras. Hanuman Chalisa being
Hmm.
my favorite one, but
Hmm.
the famous mantra, the mantras of all mantras, happens to be Gayatri mantra. It's one of those things which people say that's something which a baby would have to hear when it's born, or it's one of the most powerful, the best mantras out there. It's the Gayatri mantra. And
Yeah.
there's also the Mritya Sanjeevani, sorry, no, Mahamrityunjaya mantra, not Sanjeevani, sorry.
Yeah.
Muhammad, then also there's the mantra for uh, Narasimha. There's several mantras that we know of, right?
Hmm.
And yeah, maybe we could do the breakdown of these mantras at some point. And there's all, but out of all these mantras, there are two mantras which are quite famous. One, not a mantra per se, but this word itself is a mantra, which is Om,
Yeah.
right? I
Exactly.
think this is the first word, and the word itself is powerful.
Yeah.
Care to explain the relevance of Om and what it signifies?
Yeah, sure. So it is said that it is believed that the first ever sound that was made in the universe as soon as it was created was the sound Om. So Om fundamentally breaks down into three aspects: A, U, and Ma. So all of these three sounds have specific sort of connotations towards them, and all of these three connotations have relevance with the with how the entire universe was created. So the sound out of the Om just represents the conscious being within all of us, and it is believed that the sound U, A U Ma, U represents the subconscious within each living entity, and both of these, the conscious and the subconscious, relates towards the Ma, which is the unconscious, which we don't know what it is, as in um, what we know that we don't know, and what we don't know that we don't know. So it's sort of mind bending if you think about it in that aspect. But all of these three, the conscious, the subconscious, and the unconscious, all of these three just call upon the silence after the whole Om is being recited at that point. So A, U, and Ma, these three sounds, and then the silence that follows, that relates to the Paramatma, that is the supreme soul out of this entire universe. So now you got to know of the entire breakdown of the Om sound, and this is the first sound that was made as soon as the universe was created. The first sound that was heard when the first universe was created, and it also repeats each time a universe is destroyed and each time a universe is created. So that's how it is. It holds such a big significance in our culture.
Got it. So let me just tie it back to the mantras, especially. Let me tie it back to the previous discussion. You mentioned about the way of worship, right? When gods have certain hymns in the Greek mythology, mantras are the way to invoke, right, a god in a certain way, quicker way, right? So just like how you mentioned, the hymns are used in Greek or Norse mythology, or even Christianity, for example, a certain way to address God. Mantras are the way to invoke deities as well, right? Even though you could just use your regular words, but these would have a more stronger, power in terms of addressing or bringing God to listen to your queries, kind of thing, right? So yeah, I think each religion has its own version of it. Over here we have something called the mantras, which is not just invoking God, but it also brings in discipline. It also brings the kind of positive energy that you, once you start practicing these things, you tend to get attached to certain mantras, and they build a habit of sort. That's a good thing, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. These mantras and chants that we have, each of these mantras just originate from a seed of mantras, as in each of these mantras were not created because they were just manufactured or created out of a specific set of words. Each of these mantras, the great mantras that we have, these are things that have appeared in the minds of sages, great sages, and it's not something that is within human capacity to design these mantras. So you can just imagine how great these mantras uh, are, and what sort of role they hold in transforming the human soul from a prime primitive human being all towards an evolved soul that has attained moksha. So these mantras play a significant role in the entire journey that we know of, from being an unknowing ignorant soul all the way towards being a completely, you know, spiritual soul that is free from the cycle of life and birth.
Got it. I think every time we discuss something about these topics, I keep saying we'll have to do a discussion on this separately. That's pretty much all topics we've discussed. Like I think Hinduism is so vast. No matter how detailed you get into, you're still scratching the surface, and you still have to plan it for a different day. I know it does sound repetitive, and I keep saying that we'll do it to the next maybe next podcast, but essentially there is so much to cover, right? If you stick to a single
Exactly.
topic, let's just say I just talk about the word Om. There's so much we could talk about just Om. They just not miss out on every other thing that we may want to speak. So yeah, again I'll say we'll come back to these things eventually, but for now our idea is to brush through these topics and see if it puts a seed in people's mind to want to pay more attention to these things or want to learn more of these things. Eventually we'll get to
Yeah.
do these things as well, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. We'll do cover all of these topics individually. I think this requires specific podcasts of their own.
Yes, sir. Now I wanted to ask this important question though. You mentioned about the number 108. It came up a couple of times, and
Yeah.
I just want to mention the Rudrakshas, the Rudraksha malas that you wear also
Hmm.
consist of 108 beads. And
Yeah.
that's the actual, and not just Rudraksha. I think, if I'm not mistaken, all rosaries also have 108 beads as well, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what is this? What is the significance of 108 in Hinduism, and why is it 108?
Yeah, so the number 108 predates the entire human civilization, predates the entire universe itself. It holds a great significance as to how the universe was made, and what are the technicalities that are being used in order to make this universe. So it's common knowledge that this universe did not happen by chance. It's not just some rock just hit another rock, and that rock led to being a molten lava, and then that molten lava just got converted into life. It's not as simple as that. Each life form was created, and each of these things that it took to make all of these things, it's all based on the number 108. Just to go through a few things that are having a great resonance with the number 108. So you might know that there are 108 Upanishads, and each deity has 108 names of their own, and even the Shiv Tandav, the dance that Shiva does, the cosmic dance, that as well has 108 postures. Just for example, Natraja is one posture amongst that, and even Natraja, there are several breakdowns of each posture that they do, and also the famous Surya Namaskar that we do. The famous yoga practice that's commonly done. It has, I'm sorry, it is supposed to be done 9 times, and each time that we do it, it has 12 stances. It has 12 positions. So a 9 times 12 is 108. So it is generally advised that each Surya Namaskar that we do, it is supposed to be done 9 times. So all of these things, it can't just be a coincidence that everything just comes down to the number 108. Just to give you a perspective as to how great this number goes towards. Uh, the distance between the sun and the earth, um, I'm not speaking about in terms of exact miles or exact kilometers. The approximate distance between the earth and the sun is 108 times the sun's diameter. So each time that you go around the sun, that's that distance multiplied by 108 times, you get the distance between the earth and the sun. And then another example, the earth and the moon. The distance between the earth and the moon is what you get if you multiply the moon's diameter each time you go around the moon. If you multiply it by the number 108, you get the distance between the earth and the moon. And also, if you look at it from an astrological perspective, you see that there are 12 houses and there are 9 planets, and together they make 108. So it's not just a coincidence that everything just comes down to the number 108. um, we are all aware that like I mentioned earlier, everything is not up for chance. Everything is supposed to be designed in a specific way that it works. And if you really think about it, even if our planet was one position farther away from the sun, it would have frozen to death. And even if our planet was one position closer to our sun, it would have been a molten lava molten ball of lava. So it's the exact distance what it's supposed to be, and it's been designed in such an intricate manner that it all works out that every life is supposed to be sustained as it should, and every being is living as it should. So that's just to show how great the number 108 can be. These are just some of the examples that I was able to pull up.
Well, that's interesting. I had no idea the diameter or circumference of sun, the distance between Earth, all of them are aligned in a way. This is news to me, by the way. So yeah, I knew 108 was important, but I had no idea what it is or how many places it was used. You gave an idea of where it's been used.
Yeah, it is basically the building block of this entire universe, as in the number upon which the entire universe is built. And if you want to go even on a grander scale, if you can measure the Milky Way and what it's revolving, I'm sure we all know that our entire galaxy is not a stationary galaxy, it's revolving, it's traveling throughout space and time, and it is traveling um, sort of on Bhuloka, but it is traveling on an axis. And it is believed that Milky Way is supposed to be revolving a black hole at the center, but it is also in our Vedic cosmology. It is also mentioned that the Bhuloka goes around. Bhuloka is uh, the dimensional plane, the three-dimensional plane that we all live in right now, where we can see height, weight, and height, breadth, and width, the 3 dimensions. So this is essentially the Bhuloka that we live in, and this Bhuloka just goes round and round around Mount Meru. Mount Meru is basically the structure, the mountain which is holding the entire 14 lokas together. And you might heard of Mount Meru in the famous story of the Samudra Manthan, where the gods and the asuras, they battle towards getting the Amrita out of the
But
ocean, the
yeah,
causal ocean. Yeah, the
yes.
causal ocean. Yeah, so that's the idea of the basic Vedic cosmology. You can just see how advanced we were thinking. And this is all, by the way, this is all mentioned in the Bhagavad Puran, the Srimad Bhagavatam. The ways the Vedic cosmology, how Mount Meru and the 14 lokas are aligned, and how the topmost loka, the Satya loka, is there. And there are further lokas to be discussed as well. We can keep that to another podcast.
So, if you have to make a book recommendation for someone who's not completely involved in religion or is someone who's completely into reading as well, what
Mhm.
is a book that you would refer or you suggest for an individual to read or understand or refer to those books, which gives not the breakdown of it, but at least the fundamental or the basic ideas for them to, tie them into more of these things? What is one book recommendation that you might give?
So there's not just one book that I would like to recommend, but if a person wants to get started on their journey, I would recommend the Bhagavad Gita being the first book that they refer to, because that sort of gives a foundation on what lies ahead. And then after the Bhagavad Gita is completed, you can just move on to Srimad Bhagavatam, because the Bhagavad Gita gives you a basic idea of what everything is and how it all works. And the Srimad Bhagavatam gives you a detailed description of what each component is, and what each component is significant of, and how it was all designed. So there's an entire detailed description of the Vedic cosmology and how our cosmos is, and not just the planet, the solar system, or our entire three-dimensional world. It just gives you a dimensional perspective of the entire 14 lokas. So yeah, not just one book, two books.
Two books. Okay, that makes sense. All right. So now I think we've covered most of the discussion we wanted to, but there's one thing which we haven't discussed though, uh,
Yeah,
the Nagas.
yeah.
So that Nagas are quite interesting. I was reading through one of the books and the story of the origin of Nagas and the Garuda. They have their own story as well, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But Nagas are not just native to Hindu mythology or Indian religion,
Hmm.
anything of that sort as well. This is something which is found in several places, several regions. One form or another form of Nagas have been depicted, right?
Hmm.
So, yeah, let's talk on that. What is your understanding of Nagas? And apart from the Puranic point of view,
Hmm.
other regions, other scriptures, or even other documents, what do you
Yeah.
think of these Nagas?
Yeah. So Nagas are basically believed to be trans-dimensional beings, as in beings that are not limited to just one dimension, and they are believed to be residing within Patal Loka, um, Patal Loka, which also contains the Nagaloka. So they have their own sort of world that they live in, and Vasuki being the king of the Nagas, and also one more popular Naga is the Anant Shesh Naga, who upon whose thousand-headed serpent head um, our entire 14 lokas resides on. So this is common knowledge. Let's do another take on this, wherein why are Nagas worshipped? They're basically representative of life and death, and they also signify eternity. They signify timelessness, and we can just see the contrary here. On one end, they signify life and death. On the other end, they signify timelessness and eternity. So there are two sides to this coin. And also, if you look at it from a more spectacle scientific point of view, you see the DNA model that was presented in an earlier time, wherein it was said that the DNA strands that each human being is made up of, each not just human beings, each living being is made up of, the DNA strands sort of intertwined together, and they've sort of form a chain amongst themselves. And if you see the idols of Nagas that we worship, you see the same pattern over there, as in two intertwined lines representing the DNA altogether. Uh, so that's just one way of looking as to how they signify life itself, the origin of life, the basic sort of component of life that is required for every being to have characteristics of their own. That is being signified through the worship of these beings, these great beings. And they are also believed to be ancestors of the present day snakes, as in I don't particularly believe that they're limited to snakes, but it is also one more popular belief that the Nagas were aliens who have traveled from another world or another loka, like I mentioned, the Pata Loka or the Nagaloka. That might just be one way of looking at it, but yeah, they are believed to have tremendous powers. They're believed to have the ability to manifest tremendous things. Maya, they're supposed to have power over manifesting Maya, and all of the siddhis, Dashra siddhis, just one part of the example. And yeah, also that's just one part of the spectrum. There's also one more thing that I would like to propose. I think it's not a popular belief, but this is just for the spectacle minds out there. People who are aware of the string theory, the famous string theory that was introduced in recent times, wherein it is believed that the entire universe just sort of is built upon strings, as in each molecule, each particle is connected to another particle in the form of strings. And where I'm going with this is essentially trying to signify that how nagas, being the elongated beings that they are, and yeah, uh, either
Yeah, I'm sorry, I can hear you.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I thought you got disconnected. So yeah,
Network, I think some discrepancy. Yeah, now it's back.
yeah, yeah. So what I was saying is, string theory, how they say that the scientists say that the entire universe is linked through strings. Each and every molecule is linked to another molecule in the form of string, in a form of a line. And you see nagas being the elongated sort of line beings that they are. You can see the resonance with them. I'm not saying that's the only reason why I believe they're the fundamental beings of existence altogether. If you see Nagas. You have heard the term of Naga dosha, right? So
Yes,
the
sir.
entire idea of the entire idea of Naga dosha comes in the concept wherein you do a bad karma, and you do it towards their species, and you have a sort of grudge from their side, as in you have a sort of an evil eye on you, wherein whatever you do, it's never going to get successful unless you get rid of this dosha. So what I was going to say here is, think of it this way: the bad karmas that you do, the bad things that you do, eventually circle back to you, and bad things are going to happen to you itself. They're going to circle back, right? So if you think of it in that way, they're really fundamental particles of this entire universe, wherein you send out negative vibrations from your side, you do bad things, and those vibrations are eventually going to hit back towards you in the form of negative vibrations as well. If you look at string theory, it says the same thing. Negative, there are the entire universe runs on vibrations throughout these entire strings, right? So you can see the similarities between these two concepts, wherein Nagadosha says that you do bad karma and you're going to get hit with bad karma again. You're going to get bad things circle back towards you again. And then the string theory also says that you give out negative vibrations and you get negative vibrations back again. You can just see the significance that the Nagas hold, not only just to worship them, but also in your day to day life, wherein if you do any bad things are gonna eventually happen to you. So I wanted to relate those two concepts together, and also, uh, you see the naga, the snake being coiled out with two coils, and then there's one serpent head, sort of like a hood that's curving, and you look at the kundalini of each person, as in the kundali that each person is born with. They both are essentially the same, as in they signify the same structure. Each person is born with the specific kundalini characteristic of their own, and it also signifies the shape of a naga. Just to say that they are beings from an outer world, from another loka, is an oversimplification of things. So you can just see how much of a great importance they hold, not only in terms of the existence of the entire universe being present in the very last strand, the string of the universe itself, being the mode of vibration towards the entire universe itself, but also what each person is born with within their kundalini. So I hope I made sense.
It's a yeah, it was quite a quite interesting topic though. Again, it's a complex one as well though. For example,
Yeah.
we're talking about you know putting in both science. So we've tried this in the past as well, right, with other other streams as well. We try
Yeah.
to tie science as well as religion together and see where are the connections that makes more sense, right? And frankly, I don't have much knowledge about string theory, so I couldn't weigh in much on that. But yeah, I was able to understand that there is resemblance. But from my point of view, like as a person who doesn't have a lot of knowledge, I had to take a step back. But yeah, I think with what you've explained, it's something which
Hmm.
is requires more attention. So most of these things which we discussed in the past, as well as what we've had, there is a comparison that you can draw from, but it's not drawn usually because it's always pushed aside as either superstitious, or maybe these people, Indians, are not that advanced. They are a third world country. There's no way they could have made that leap. So it's
Yeah.
always that story though. These guys cannot, because I mean, if they don't have toilets, how will they come up with science stuff? Like that's the understanding most West has as well, right? Even though that entire
Exactly.
argument is flawed in itself, that's the
Yeah.
argument most Western countries have as well. So the understanding or the acknowledgement of these, divine, discoveries. For example, we're talking about in terms of science, math, as well as astronomical things as well. They're not
Hmm.
accepted without that going through a series of checks. And when you pointed out these comparisons, like the string theory as well as the Nagas, the DNA strand and the
Hmm.
design of it, and the Naga strand and design of it, they all are aligned, and yeah, that makes sense. But essentially, I think more people need to be involved in these things. More people would have to, bring out these things. If I'm not mistaken, I mentioned about this YouTuber called a YouTube channel called Project Shivoham.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Uh, I've always mentioned about this particular YouTube channel because one of they had really quite interesting videos, and one of those things which
Hmm.
you mentioned about, there's so much knowledge that we've had in Sanskrit itself that it's
Hmm.
been lost because we couldn't translate them. And he talks
Yeah.
about all the advanced things that we've discovered that was later
Hmm.
discovered by the West, right? Not that they did not they copied it from the Indians, but we just discovered it way before, but we could
Yeah.
not publish it out because we lost our translations, right? And if we
Yeah.
could only bring out those translations, if we were able to understand it, and discern those ideas in a more easier way to understand, and
Hmm.
then we should also be able to produce those ancient knowledge that we have in the most
Hmm.
understandable fashion. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a complex one, but yeah, it is what it is, I guess.
Yeah, I do completely agree with that. So much of knowledge. I think the problem is not that we lost the knowledge. The problem is that so much of our knowledge, such a huge chunk of our knowledge is so ancient that most of it never made through the test of time, and that's where so much of it was lost. And then we also have the invasions, wherein so much of our books, our scriptures, and our temples got lost. They were burnt down, and so many tragic events led to us being completely um, you know ignorant towards the this parts of the culture that we chose. As in, it's not that we chose to ignore them, it's just that we did not have any choice at that time.
I agree. That's potentially a possibility, right? So yeah,
Yeah.
we've covered several discussions, and anything else that you want to highlight or bring up?
uh Nothing from my side. I think we have covered so many topics for today, and yeah, nothing much. Also, one more thing. You mentioned the Gayatri mantra. We of course we're gonna um, cover it in a future topic in detail. But also, one fun fact about the Gayatri Mantra: the Gayatri Mantra, the starting phase, Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha. So, I just wanted to, sort of give a sneak peek into that. Is that
Mm-hmm.
okay?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So, the entire concept of the Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha, Bhu, the first word Bhu, is Bhualoka, Bhuloka, the earth plane that we live in, and Bhur Bhuva, Bhuva meaning the heavens, as in the upper lokas. And also one more way of looking at it is that it is sort of an upper plane towards the bhulokas, and I'm speaking in terms of the 14 lokas, bhuvar
Mhm.
loka. And then there is Om Bhur Bhuvas Swaha, and then there is Swaha, which means the Surya Loka. Swaha means Surya, the sun god. So this just these three syllables that I mentioned right now just encapsulates the entire solar system that we have right now. Again, this is just within the first three words of the entire shloka. You can imagine the scale that this goes towards. Yeah, exactly. This is the one that I was talking about. Just above Bhuloka, there is Bhuvar Loka. So the heavenly planets, the heavenly
Okay.
lokas. Yeah, just a little sneak peek into the Gayatri mantra, and then also there are 24 seed syllables within this. Seed syllables essentially means that they give root to other mantras, and just for common knowledge, 7 crore supreme mantras have been derived from this single mantra. 7 crore mantras have been derived from this one mantra. Again, this all is a bit complicated, but you can just imagine the scale, the greatness of this one single mantra. And that's the whole reason why it's whispered onto babies' ears as soon as they're born. The Gayatri mantra is said into their ears so that they have sort of this great mantra into their ear. And there are other significances to this as well. We're going to discuss that in a future topic. So yeah, that I just wanted to add that.
Yes, okay. Yeah, I agree to that as well. These mantras, they need their own sessions because there's so much, as you mentioned, there's so much within even these lokas, right? Atala, Vitala,
Mhm.
Sutala, Talatala, Mahatala, all of these places are also mentioned in one of the Shiva stotras, not stotras, sorry, one of Shiva mantras as well. These are
Yeah,
mentioned, right?
yeah,
And so, yeah, they have their own relevance. We will have to do the breakdown of these mantras in itself to be more clear, more precise on those things. Maybe a different live stream should help on those things. But yeah,
yeah,
the
definitely.
understanding of 14 lokas, and we are just one of those. We are the seventh loka, and we have six lokas above us, and then there are seven lokas below us.
Yeah,
That's that itself is complex. And last time, I think, if I'm not mistaken, one of the streams you mentioned, the seven lokas below our lokas are where the other entities live, like other beings, other, like for example, nagas and others live on this
yeah,
particular lokas. Whereas the divine or the devas live the ones above us, which is the Swarga loka or Satya loka and other lokas,
yeah,
Brahma loka and
exactly.
such.
Yeah.
All right. So I think that's a good talk we've had. We've covered interesting topics. So as we've discussed earlier, so for this week, we'll be doing
Mhm.
more about Hinduism, certain rituals and rites which is not well known. We'll cover those, and we'll do a
Mhm.
three-part session of these things. We'll have it every Thursdays. We'll
Yep.
have these discussions, and once we're done,
Mhm.
we'll go back to Ramayana. I think Ramayana, we still have so much to cover, so many topics which are still pending. So we'll go back to
Mhm.
Ramayana, and once we're done with that, we could move on to the other things as well. In between Ramayana, as Ramayana is huge, between Ramayana we'll cover the mantras and Hanuman Chalisa and other things as well. But
Mhm.
as of now, I think we've shared interesting topics for discussion. Anything else you want to say before we close the session today?
No, sir, that would be it from my side, and it was a pretty good talk.
Yes, sir, it was. So yeah, if that's pretty much it. In that case, we should meet again next week, next Thursday,
Mhm.
9:30 p.m. IST, and discuss more about Hindu rites and rituals which are forgotten or not well known amongst the current society.
Yes, sir. Definitely, we're going to do that.
Thanks and stay safe. Take care.
You too. Thank you.
So, bye.